5 primaries, 2 runoffs, 1 special election. A very busy night last night. The next primary is not till next month. Here to break it down. If you missed it, Mike Carter joining us live with the story from the newsroom. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Sean, good to be with you. Well, House members from both parties were in peril on Tuesday's primaries with redistricting, perceived loyalty to Donald Trump, both on the ballot. Let's start in New York, where Congressman Lee Zeldin wins New York's GOP gubernatorial primary, beating out 3 competitors, including former White House aide Andrew Giuliani on Tuesday. Zeldin will face off against New York Governor Kathy Hochul in the general election in November. Hochul easily winning her primary on Tuesday night. A lot of Republicans, though, here in New York say Hochul is ripe for being taken down.
This November, in the state of New York, one-party rule will end. Kathy Hochul will get fired. We will restore balance and common sense to Albany again.
Illinois, Darren Bailey wins his primary. He'll face off against Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. Interesting race here in Illinois. J.B. Pritzker betting that Darren Bailey is too extreme to win a general election, but Pritzker was so confident he could beat Bailey. Him and the Democratic Party actually funded campaign ads supporting Bailey's campaign. But nevertheless, Bailey wins his primary, and he'll look to be the next governor of Illinois this November.
We were outspent by tens of millions of dollars in the primary, and look what happened tonight. This is how it's done. Here's a tip and some advice for J.B. Pritzker. Start packing, friend.
And Jonathan Jackson, the son of Reverend Jesse Jackson, he wins in Illinois' 1st congressional district. Over in Illinois 6, Sean Cason beating out Congresswoman Marie Newman in that race. Marie Newman, a pro-Palestinian Democrat congresswoman in Illinois. That's a newly created 6th district now that those lines have been redrawn. Newman was defeated by Congressman Sean Cason, who was strongly endorsed by pro-Israel organization Democratic Majority of Israel. Mary Miller beating out Rodney Davis right there in primaries District 15 over in Illinois. And as we move along, we'll take a look at Esther King. She wins in Illinois' 17th district. Another big win for Republicans in that district. New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik congratulating Esther King in a statement on Tuesday night, saying this, quote, after forcing failed Democrat chair Cheri Bustos into retirement, there's no doubt that Esther has what it takes to flip this key open seat from blue to red, and I look forward to helping Esther win big in November. Again, Cheri Bustos, the Democrat, giving up that seat this November, so that seat could very well turn from blue to red. And as we look ahead, we have more primaries to wrap up today, and we'll have more for you later on this morning. Sean?
Mike Carter joining us live in the newsroom. Mike, thank you very much. For reaction now, I'm joined by the chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp. Matt, good to see you. Thanks so much for taking the time there. So we ironed everything out, but it was a big night last night. Again, 5 primaries, 2 runoffs, special election. What are some of the things that stuck out to you? There was a Mississippi upset there. Obviously, redistricting affected many of the races. What stood out to you, Matt?
I think what stands out to me is that the old playbook where you have to find some kind of a moderate establishment Republican to win in some of these races, although oftentimes in purple districts that is the right way to victory, I think this year it's not the right way to victory. The right way to victory is for the Republicans to continue to nominate people who can win. We don't want to nominate people who have no chance of winning, but who are very connected to the MAGA movement, to America First, who are strong conservatives, because all of the enthusiasm is on the Republican and conservative side. If you look at the Real Clear Politics generic ballot this morning, Republicans have a commanding lead in that generic ballot. And by the way, they've had a lead in that generic ballot throughout the Biden presidency. And if you look at Biden's numbers are not going to improve between now and Election Day. There is it's essentially a plebiscite, this election. It's, do you like the Biden and the Pelosi socialist policies, or do you think they've gone too far? And they are going to get this overwhelming condemnation by voters that they've gone too far, even in a lot of blue districts.
What do you think about Colorado, Lauren Boebert keeping her seat, remaining there? Was that a major moment for the Republican Party?
It was, because Lauren Boebert is outspoken. She has a stout voting record in our congressional ratings. She's unafraid to speak to what the Democrats are trying to do, and the Democrats have tried to silence her and harm her. And she got, she's supported by her voting base, and she's going to win in November. And these strident members are not going to lose, even if Democrats try to play around by doing spending for their opponents.
Final thoughts on this. This gubernatorial race in New York has seemed to take nationwide attention here. There hasn't been a Republican in that seat since Governor George Pataki. Lee Zeldin, current congressman, now hoping to unseat. Current Governor Kathy Hochul come November. But in your political opinion, does Zeldin stand a fair chance?
Shockingly, yes. We have seen an outflight of people from New York. I'm sure you have friends, I have friends, who have fled the crime of New York, who have fled the taxes of New York. They have fled to places like Florida and Texas and Tennessee and Georgia. But yet still, I've been looking at a lot of polling in New York, and Lee Zeldin has a really good chance to win. Now, we've won this governor's seat before. George Pataki won 4 times. The people of New York don't like crime, shockingly, and they don't like high taxes, and they don't like the cesspool of what they see with the attacks on cops and broken schools. So I think we have a real shot there. And Lee Zeldin, we were proud to endorse him because he's the right candidate to make the fight.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about this, too. As we're talking about midterms, I wanted to ask you about the rumor mill, if you will. Whispers of Hillary Clinton getting back in, according to CNN, in 2024. Again, this is a report from CNN alleging, rather, that Hillary Clinton could run in 2024. Now is the time for her. There are whispers, apparently. Is that something that the Republican Party would fear if that does indeed happen in a couple years?
I think it's more than whispers. I think it's real. I think the Clinton people are trying to push her forward. And it makes sense because Biden clearly wants to run again, or his wife is telling him that he's going to run again. I don't know really how that works. And despite these taped phone calls and all the corruption from the Biden family, they're still press and go. And so the question of who's the alternative, and Democrats say Kamala Harris has failed in her national test to be their standard bearer. They don't really have somebody else sitting there in the wings. Let's give Hillary a try. By the way, I'd be for it.
All right, we'll leave it right there. Chairman of the American Conservative Union, that is Matt Schlapp, joining us live. Matt, good to see you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me on.